And welcome back to Survivor 42 and 42. Just finished Survivor Worlds Apart, the 30th season of the show, on the 30th day of this marathon that I've been putting myself through. I'm almost done, y'all. I'm almost done. We are joined today by Jocelyn, who is also, or she's watching the show for the first time. She also just finished Worlds Apart. So we're going to get her opinions on how this season compares to the other 29 seasons she's watched up to this point. And joining us once again is Adam, who we haven't had since Survivor All-Stars about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. So it's been a bit. And also we are joined by a member of said Worlds Apart cast, runner-up, one of my favorite players from this season. I'm assuming one of the favorite players of both other people on this this panel. We have Mama C joining us today. So hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. So before I get to you, Jocelyn, everyone that comes on the show has to give us their Survivor hot take. What is your Survivor hot take?
Oh, okay.
Mom, start thinking about yours because I want to ask yours too.
This is, from my point of view, a spoiler, but something I know. I'm very, very sad and angry and disappointed that this is the last auction that I will see.
I like that one. All right. All right. And Mama C, what would you say your all-time Survivor hot take is?
The hot take. Well, actually, it was something on my season that actually wasn't even aired.
Okay.
Which was one of my favorite times. So we had won the crab trap.
Yes.
Yeah. And I had already found the idol. But if you know anything about Survivor, when the idol is not found, there's a hidden clue, usually in the reward, some place around the reward. So there was a piece of paper on the top of the crab trap, and Shireen was staring at that paper. And so I grabbed the paper, I folded it up, and I put it in my bra. And she was like, all right, we'll look at it together when we get back to camp. But I knew that it wasn't going to be a clue because I had already found the hidden immunity idol. So when we got back to camp, her and Max were like, all right, Mama C, let's go. We're going to take a look at this. And I'm like, yeah, that's not happening. So I said, well, no, all we're doing is fighting over this stupid idol, because they were all looking for it nonstop. And I said, I'm taking this clue and I'm putting it in the fire and I'm burning it. So I took that and I put it in the fire with a stick, and they were just trying to get it. And I'm like, don't freaking touch it. I put it in the fire. I burned it. The only thing was, it was the instructions on how to use the crab trap. We never caught one crab. We never caught one crab.
That's awesome.
So that was one of my favorite moments. And when we talked about it afterwards, Max and I were like hysterically laughing. We were like, okay, that was good.
So going off of that, it's an amazing story. We have Survivor Worlds Apart, which historically, just, you know, the fans online and a lot of super fans don't think very highly of this season.
I know.
I want to ask, just from your point of view, why do you think that the season gets such a bad rap from so many people?
I think it gets a bad rap because the Will Shireen incident, which was basically 10 minutes out of 39 days, okay, tainted the season. And then you had some issues with Dan, you had some issues with Rodney. And so people see the season as this, you know, nonstop fighting, which is not the case. And so I feel really bad about the fact that, you know, people think that, you know, the cast is horrible and everyone sucks because all you did was fight and these characters are horrible. But that's not the case. You know, I'm probably still in contact with maybe everyone but 3 people on the cast. You know, I mean, I talk to Mike almost every day. I talk to you know, every other day. You know, it's just, we're a very close cast, and it was a great season, and it was tainted by, you know, a point in time that it just gets a bad rap for that.
And I think there are a lot of moments in seasons past and going into the future where I feel like a lot of people latch on, and I'm guilty of it as much as anybody else, of latching on to negative moments. I'm not a big fan of Survivor All-Stars because of moments that happened in that season. Now, I can admit that All-Stars has positive moments to it, but in my head, I always latch, onto the Sue moment or the Jenna moment or just things like that. So I understand why people might latch onto that. But, and this is a credit to you, and I feel like these two can attest to this, despite the fact that this season is looked down upon, your name is constantly looked at as one of the bright spots of this season. And I feel like, because you have such a, I don't even call it a cult following, because you have a large following, I feel like that is a testament to how you, not only how you were portrayed, but also just how you carried yourself in the game, where, they could have easily attacked, and we're going to get to the ending at the end. They could have easily, on the edit, attacked you, for this, that, or the other. But the fact that they didn't shows us as the audience, at least, okay, so this person was actually lovable out there. This person was doing things. We're not just seeing the positive side, and these people are seeing the negative side.
Right.
But going to the beginning of, not even just before the season, the theme. So, Jocelyn, I want to get to you for a second, because this is your first time watching the season.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of this theme? Did you think that it was going to work? Did you think, okay, what the hell is No Collar? What were your thoughts?
It was intriguing to me. I'm not, splitting the tribes in this way never fully clicks for me, but it is less problematic than some of the other seasons and ways it's been done. It's definitely interesting. It's not my favorite, but it's
Adam?
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting because as far as I can remember, this is kind of the first pitting of lifestyles one. I guess technically Panama was old men versus old women, which I guess you could maybe consider that.
Cook Islands.
Yeah, maybe consider that lifestyle, but this kind of started the whole, okay, now let's do millennials versus Gen X, David versus Goliath. I feel like it kind of started this trend of pitting people from different worlds together, which has led to some great seasons and great moments in the future. So it's kind of tough to take a look at the first season to do it and compare it to the rest, because they obviously can take the best parts of Worlds Apart, whereas it was kind of like a guinea pig season in a way for the 30s of Survivor. So,
and Marcy, so when you were casted, did they say this is what we're doing, or did you not find out until you were there and looked over, or was it somewhere in the middle?
I had no idea what the theme was. I just knew that I had to pick a certain color, the worst color ever. Who wants to dress like a bumblebee the whole time? But yeah, I had no idea. And then when I got there and I saw So's outfit, I was like, this is so not fair. I have the cheesiest, disgusting outfit ever. But whatever.
Did you think it was fair on the tribe that you were put on? Would you have?
Oh, I'm a white collar. My work is white collar. Okay. But as Joaquin so eloquently said, my work doesn't define who I am, right? Because just because I work in an office, if you look at the way that I play the game or the way that I am just in real life, I'm down and dirty, get things done, with a blue collar mentality, whatever needs to get done gets done. So, and it's funny because the no collars and the blue collars were always against the white collars, always, until they needed us.
Until the and we'll
Right?
get to
And then
that.
they're like, oh my God, we just love the white collars.
Yep.
So during this process, I've referred to a lot of cast members throughout, especially like the 20s and late teens and going into the 30s as Looney Tunes. Looney Tunes cartoon characters. There's always a tribe that's like full of cartoon characters, and there's like
Right.
the straight-laced tribe. I feel like, Jocelyn, for the first time this season, we get a good mix of cartoon characters dispersed among the three tribes. So when you were watching this, for the first time, what tribe was really standing out to you? Because all three of them ended up having to do a tribal at some point before the swap. So which one were you kind of latching onto as far as not even like or dislike, but just more of an entertaining type factor?
Each tribe had their own ways that they were entertained. So, I mean, you and I have discussed this. There's no question where I would have been. Those are all the notes that I took color coded on this season. So just on a soul level, the white collar tribe, I'm like, yep, analytical. Okay, this is good. I've got it. But I mean, the love them or hate them, the blue collar tribe is loud and entertaining for most of the season. The no collar tribe is going to bring that free spirit energy. And it really was like,
It was so interesting.
yeah.
Day one, if you looked at how every tribe started their introductions, it was hilarious and so fitting.
When you were doing your confessionals out there, did they very much push the whole make sure you bring up like
Never.
white collar? Because so y'all were actually out there saying, yes, being a white collar person, I have to do this. They weren't saying, hey, make sure to drop that. And that is, well, then that is very interesting. And I think it makes it even better because you guys did embrace that without people telling you like, hey, don't forget to,
No, it's like they don't even ask things like that. They were, like I just felt it from the beginning, like the first day on the mat, everyone's like against the white collars. And then after the first challenge, when the no collars won and they're cheering on the blue collars, I'm like, okay, I see where we're at now. But I had friends, which, just by making eye contact on the blue collar tribe.
And I guess that can kind of lead us to, it seemed like once the swap happened as well as when the merge happened, that you were a prime person, not only to work with, but also Mama sees a threat, blah, blah, blah. Like we probably need to get rid of her at some point. Do you feel like that eye contact that you were making with people, do you feel like people kind of took it one way or the other? Or did you feel like as the game progressed, people saw you as that threat?
I think that people only started seeing me as a threat once we were at the merge, that nobody saw me as a threat before that. They just saw me as the old lady on the tribe, and it's like, okay, keep seeing me that way, baby. Come on, I got you.
And that's the great thing about you and the archetype and the older woman archetype is you transcend that. Like when I think of that archetype, I almost don't think of you, even though I would, obviously you were kind of perceived that way, at some point or another, like you just said. But I think because one, yes, everyone loved you from what we're seeing. But two, that you were, besides Mike, the challenged beast of the season, to the point where, once again, people already see you as a threat at the merge, but then they start to see you as more of a threat because you are winning challenges now. Now we can't even say, hey, they can't make up this basically bullshit lie that we dragged her along, because in reality, I'm doing my own thing. I'm voting my way, and I just happen to be voting the correct way. And we're going to get to something that happens later in a little bit. But Jocelyn, who were some of the players that stood out to you as the season progressed? Once we kind of deal with pre-merge, who are the characters that you know were really pulling for? Let's say at the merge, and you know we'll get to the later part later.
Yeah. So it's gonna sound like kissing up. It's not, Mama C. What really impressed me was the I don't know that I've seen many people handle an idol the way that you did. That it really was it was a source of strength for you, but you didn't threaten it. Most people didn't know you had it. The way you played was so smart because you were playing social, but you also, like Drew said, you were winning, and then you also had that idol. It was really like a well-rounded way of playing that most people weren't doing. And I don't know if part of that, I think that's part of why I'm a little iffy on the way the season was set up in the tribes, because I think a lot of people got pushed into really embracing one aspect of themselves in their gameplay once those tribes were labeled. And you didn't do that. So I was rooting for you pretty hard a lot of the way through because of that, because it was really smart playing and well-rounded playing.
Thank you.
And Adam, you know, as I don't know how many times you've watched the season up to this point, but as the season progresses, and you know, like Mom mentioned earlier, you know, there are a couple of incidences that happen that you know might damper it for a lot of people. But what were some of the moments that stood out to you in a positive light that made you think, okay, this season has merit, or I could watch the season again because of this? What stood out to you?
I mean, obviously the biggest one that it's impossible to talk about the season without mentioning this is obviously going to be Mike's immunity challenge win. I mean, you can kind of break down this season as like a tale of like two stories. Like it almost feels like pre-merge is one story. You know, most Survivor seasons, especially post Heroes and Villains, kind of have one giant arc throughout the whole thing. This season was interesting that it kind of like stopped at the merge and then like a whole nother story began, which makes sense because like it really was edited towards Mike in the second half, and Mike's like underdog comeback story wasn't really there to be edited in the pre-merge. You know, it got to the point once Joe got eliminated, Mike, if at least what we were shown as viewers, Carolyn, you can correct me if this wasn't the actual case, but it seemed like once Joe got eliminated, the only way Mike was going to win was for him to win 5 immunities and play an immunity idol. And episode by episode, he just checked all those things off the list. So, you know, as far as moments, I mean, there was a lot. I mean, like Rodney's birthday, you know, meltdown was, you know, obviously a moment. Will's dead fish dive, obviously is ingrained into my head. There's a lot of them. The auction. But if you're talking about like the biggest moments of the season, especially post merge, I mean, Mike's immunity challenge run, that's kind of what this season was post merge, was that run.
Yeah.
And Carolyn, so when people on the street, as Jeff says, as people on the street, what is the one thing that they always ask you? Like, what is the thing that they always want to say? Okay, but what happened here? What really happened here? And that you're just kind of tired of hearing about at this point.
So I always get asked, would you have voted Mike out? Yes, 100%. Because if he would have been gone, I would have won.
I feel like we see that on the screen.
Yes. They always ask me, you know, was it as bad as it seems? No, it wasn't as bad as it seems. I had the time of my life, you know. It was super fun. I enjoyed every minute. I won a lot of challenges. I think I won every reward except for one, the chocolate reward. But yeah, it was great.
And so, I do want to touch on this. The way that it's shown, you contemplate giving Rodney your reward twice. Was there actual like long-term contemplation, or is it just the way they?
Oh no, I literally struggled with that for a long, like almost 25 minutes.
Wow.
Like
Okay.
Jeff was just like, all right, what are you doing? And I actually contemplated it. But then I thought to myself, this is my Survivor experience, right? I've waited 15 years to get on this show. And he's a recruit. Like, you know what? No. And then I'm also looking at the fact that I'm with two people from his tribe, right? Sierra and Mike. And they're not even contemplating it.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been with him since day one. So then I thought to myself, all right, you know what? And they even said to me, don't give it up. Don't give it up. What are you doing? And then I was so glad I didn't. I was so glad I didn't.
As a viewer, I was too.
And I'm like, you know what? Nobody gets rewarded for giving up their reward, except the person who gets the reward, because then they're full and they have an experience of a lifetime, right? And that was the orphanage one, you know, like as a fan, I've seen that a million times over. I get chills just thinking about it. Yeah, it was nothing to really contemplate, but I honestly did contemplate it for a long time. Because I did feel guilty. I felt bad for him. Like, but then I'm like, you know what? You're on freaking Survivor. You know, it's not the worst birthday of your life. You're on a TV show with 10 million viewers. Like, suck it up.
Well, I'm glad that you and Sierra at some point or another say that, because that stuck with me as he's saying that, because I'm sitting there, you know, when it first came out and every other time I've rewatched the season, it's like, if I were on Survivor during my birthday, I could give a shit if I'm
right
reward or not, because I'm still in the game.
Right.
And, you know,
you're not on Ponderosa. You're doing dishes on an island and potentially still in the running for $1 million. I think it's a pretty damn good birthday. You know what I mean?
I'd take that birthday.
Stop whining.
A little bit later.
And then you know what I said to him? Win! Just freaking win something. Guess what?
So
when you win, you get a reward. I don't know. Call me crazy.
So when this final six happens, and I want to get what actually happened in real time last. At the final six, you know, Mike's winning again, and they have to figure out what they're going to do. Jocelyn, at this point, do you think? I mean, obviously, as a fan, I would assume that you're hoping that she plays the idol. But are you thinking, okay, this is how this could potentially go wrong? Or are you thinking that by the end of this episode, Mom C's still going to be here and we can move on to Final Five?
I was cautiously optimistic. There's always that time where you're watching and someone, you know, you think there's no way this could go wrong. There's no way. And then somebody makes one bad decision, talks to the wrong person about the wrong thing, and that's it. I hoped with Mama C that, you know, that smart thinking was gonna keep it going, but there's always that little bit of worry of like one tired day, one argument, one weird conversation, one thing happens, and that's it. It just all turns.
So, and Carolyn, in the show, it seems like, and it's shown that, you know, Mike is scrambling when he doesn't have to warn you and Dan something is up. Now, at what point did you make that decision to play the idol when you did? One of my favorite Survivor gifs or gifs, however people pronounce it, of all time is you know, doing your little jig after the fourth Carolyn vote comes up. But at what point did you realize that I need to play this, or was it always the plan after Mike won immunity?
I knew that I was going to get some votes. I didn't think I was going to get all of them. But then I figured, you know what? I can only play this one more time. If I go home with this in my pocket with only one more time to play it, I will be the stupidest survivor ever. So I was like, you know what? I'm not taking a chance. I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to play it.
And as the names start getting read, are you
I'm like,
you show excitement, yes. But also, are you feeling a type of way, as the kids say? Are you feeling like?
well, I was so excited that I played the idol, and I was still there to be there another day. But I'm not stupid either. You can't be like, oh my God, I can't believe you voted against me, because guess what? They can vote against you next time, right? So you gotta go there and you gotta like figure out, all right, people, you all lied to my face. And then they're like, why didn't you tell us? Rodney says to me, why wouldn't you tell us you have an idol? I'm like, you just voted against me. Why would I tell you that I have an idol? Like, hello.
Yeah, but it's different. It's like it's not, and you have a confessional right after that whole moment happens where they're coming after you for that, and you're like, I still think that Mike might be the biggest threat. That's why I am entertaining these people that just tried to get rid of me, because
Right.
Mike needs to go, and that is a testament to Jocelyn and Adam, praising you as far as you can. And that's something that a lot of, as a couch survivor, that a lot of survivors that we've seen don't do. They can't turn off the who the hell voted for me thing and get pissed off. They just immediately go into you're dead to me now. I'm coming after you. And what we are shown is, no, I'm not doing that, because I understand that my best bet to get to the end is by this, and you still get to the end anyway.
But I was playing both sides anyway, if you remember, because I'm the one who told Mike that Dan had an extra vote.
Yes.
So I'm like, I got a little bit over here. I got a little bit over there.
And as we start to wrap up, I want to touch on one last thing, and it's the way it's portrayed is funny. I want to know how you actually felt in the moment. The fire making challenge.
Oh, yeah. I just had a fire making challenge this weekend. My skills are really not as much better than they were on the show, except I think I did it in like 25 minutes this time. And I was doing it against Johnny Fairplay and Janet. Janet had a freaking fire in like 3 seconds. She's so annoying. And I'm like, and I had a fire for a little bit, but then it went out, and then it took me a time. But it literally took over an hour to make a fire. The only saving grace was Rodney was so much worse than me, but he got the fire first. And then all I could hear is that, and Rodney has a fire. And I think I look over, and then my next thing, I got a flame, like literally within seconds. It was a miracle. It was literally a miracle. I had so much, magnesium. I could like make a coin out of it. There was so much magnesium there, but it was all the way at the bottom. And then I took it and I put it at the top, and then I flicked it, and I got a flame right away. But Rodney went to sleep very early every night. I didn't. I watched the fire, and I kept that fire going for 39 days, right? Well, 35 days, because the first 4 days we didn't have fire. When we finally got fire, I'm like, we are never letting this go out, ever. And so I know I could build a fire right now from embers, just like that, in 2 seconds flat, because I know how to do it, because I did it for 39 days. So as soon as I got a flame, I knew exactly what I needed to do to build that fire up. He threw his entire coconut husk in, and when you watch it on TV, my heart still goes crazy, because his flame is pretty high, but it's not hot enough to stay. It goes down very quickly. I built up my flame, and that's why I won. But
what's going through your head in that moment is it just, I'm done, like I've made it, or is it just like, I can't believe it took me that long? Or
after I got the fire, I was just so excited I could make a fire. Mind you, in my entire life, the first time that I made a fire was on day 38. Ever. Never made a fire in my life using flint. Now, I would say to fans, that is not a good strategy. If you go on Survivor, you probably should not know how to make a fire.
Mm.
All right. But I practiced in the woods. I said to myself, all right, I'm going to make 3 fires and then I'm going to feel good. I made the first fire in like 5 minutes and I'm like, okay, I got this. I made the second fire pretty quick. The third fire, I never made. It was 2 hours. I could not make the third fire. So when I went back to camp, I was distraught. I was like, I can't believe. I went up to Will and I'm like, I thought we were friends. You know I deserve to be here. How dare you vote against me? And he's like, Mama C, there's no way I can vote with you. I got to vote with Rodney, you know? And I was so pissed off at him because then I'm like, damn it, I got to make a fire. And then that's what happened.
Well, Mama C has to leave in just a second. So as I want Jocelyn to be able to ask something, before we head off. So Jocelyn, you have the floor, and then we will move on.
I would love to know what you think. One little thing you could have done differently to get the win.
I think that one of my biggest mistakes was in the swap when we voted out Max and Shireen came to me and said, are we still good? And I was like, no, we're not good. I don't trust you at all. That was so dumb. That was so dumb because from that moment on, we were enemies. And that was stupid. So if I would not have done that, and I would have brought her in and worked with her, it could have been a game changer.
Okay. Well, so I want to thank you so much for coming on for this journey that I am on. Thank you so much. And everyone, follow her on all the social medias. She is out there. Carolyn, thank you so much. And you have a good rest of the night.
Thank you. Great to talk to you guys.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, y'all. As we actually start to wrap up, any final thoughts? Jocelyn, we'll go with you first on the season.
I'm really interested to see how this season's going to sit for me over time. I don't think it'll ever become one of my favorites, but at the same time, like, there are a lot of moments in this season that are iconic. The auction. Rodney's birthday I wouldn't call iconic, but it's hysterical. Like, it's something you're gonna laugh about, you know? There are a lot of redeeming moments even for a season that a lot of people don't love. So I'll just be really interested to see over time, especially because I still have a bunch of seasons left to watch. But it was a journey.
We'll put it nicely. Adam?
This obviously is a top 5 season of all time. No, one thing that I've noticed is most people, when they first watch it, and I didn't know that this was Jocelyn's first time until we got on this live, which makes it pretty interesting. This is my third time watching it. It's interesting because what most people say is the first time watching it, it's probably bottom 10 or bottom 15, maybe bottom 20 at best. But almost every time I've heard somebody say they rewatched it or watched it a second time, it didn't jump to top 10, obviously. But I've never heard anybody say they liked it worse or anything more than, I actually felt like a new appreciation for Worlds Apart. Or like, I think Mike's win was even more underrated than I thought before. Like, it seems like on a second watch, there is a more level of appreciation for it. And there's, not a lot of seasons that have that. I think that another big thing with this season is
the winner is apparent from the auction one.
Yeah. Well, it started the Survivor 30s, which, like I said, it was not only the first like in the 30s, but it was the first like lifestyle pitting apart. It was also seemed like this season kind of started around the time when Survivor started to become a social media presence. Like, this was the first season that the Survivor specialists covered on their channel. This was like when Survivor Twitter like really started to kick off. It seemed like this was like kind of like the first season in that. I feel that like if you look at like Karamoan kind of being the end of the Dark Ages, a lot of people kind of left the show after that. And then like Blood versus Water came. And at first, a lot of Survivor viewers were like, oh, Blood versus Water, this is a different show. This isn't Survivor anymore. And a lot of people left. And then with Cagayan, the people that stayed were like, oh, no, come back. It's actually, it's still good. And like with San Juan del Sur, people are like, oh, it is still good. Okay, so yeah. Worlds Apart kind of like set the stage of like, okay, so what's it going to be now that everybody's, not everybody, but you know, that a lot of people are back. It's also, Worlds Apart comes after one of the best, in my opinion, I think a lot of people's opinions, 3-season runs in the show's history.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe the first 3 top it, or like if you look at like Micronesia and China, like that era, like there's some good 3-season runs. This comes off one of the best 3-season runs in the show's history. So it puts in kind of a tough spot. And my last thought on it would be, I feel like if there's one thing that this season in a positive way impacted, is I feel like it brought back to the forefront how important the challenge is. Like challenges are, because I feel like if you watch early Survivor, they really put a lot of emphasis on immunity challenges and rewards, how important those were. As soon as like Russell kind of got to the show, not specifically him, but like that era, it seemed like a lot of importance was shifted towards big moves, building resumes, and idols. Obviously, it seemed like for a while that stretch of Nicaragua to Blood versus Water to Cagayan, that the importance of challenges seemed to really drop in priorities. When Mike went on that 5 immunity challenge run to end the season, it's sort, I don't want to say it brought challenges back to being like the number one most important thing, but I feel like it brought challenges back to being
This
pretty
thing
important
win the
again.
game.
Yeah.
That you don't need, like, you know, as a person that doesn't like the physical aspect of the game, you can win the game that way. You don't need to be the biggest social threat or the strategic threat or the idle guy.
Yeah.
You can be the guy that just wins all the challenges. That you can win that way.
Right.
And I do like Mike's storyline, and I know he gets shit on a lot, which is weird to me because the perception is he's not a social player. It's like he's social with the people that he needs to, because everyone else has kind of blocked him out. But I think that's also a testament, that by the end of the game, people, either really like him or, at least prefer him over Will. But overall, this is one of those seasons where, in my opinion, the negatives, it just stick out more to me. It's just very similar to me to like Thailand or something like that, where it's like, it's this time around. I will say I found a new appreciation, like you just said, and I really enjoy the characters that you're supposed to like. I feel like you still like them, Mama C, Mike, characters like that. But it just overall, it's just because it's sandwiched in between that 3-season arc, followed by Cambodia. There's always going to be something there. So having said all that, 2.5 out of 5 for me on this watch. Still not the lowest. It'll never be Thailand. Thailand will probably still finish this entire thing at the bottom.
What rating did you give Thailand?
1.5.
Okay.
Or maybe a 1.25, something like that. Something very low. Because I liked Clay's Confessionals, which is horrible because he was a horrible person on the show. Adam, Jocelyn, thank you so much for joining for this. We've got Cambodia next. I'm so excited to get started on Cambodia. I feel like by the end of this, Cambodia will be my favorite season. We'll see. I think that's it. Mama C, thank you for coming on. And thank you everyone in the chat, all that jazz. And we will see you after Survivor Second Chances